I want to be clear about the goals for this hearing and the circumstances as we head into this forum. Parks Board President Brian Traubert has recused himself from involvement with this matter, and I am the board's point person. The meeting being held this evening and tomorrow, neither of these meetings are official Park District Board meetings. There is not a quorum of the board, and no action will be taken by the board. We are not here to make a decision. It is possible that the board will be asked to consider the conveyance of land at some future point. We are here to listen to the public dialogue on that. That is not what we will do tonight in terms of making a decision. We are at the start of a public process that I expect to be a lengthy one, that will begin with the question of, do we want to see the Obama Presidential Library Center in Chicago? To that, I would think the majority of people here would answer yes. The location of the library center, the design of the library, how it would operate, and what it would do for the city, these are all issues yet to be addressed. Some of these critical questions are not ones that we can address because the decisions will not ultimately be made by us here in Chicago. There are other issues that we can and will influence to ensure that the interests of Chicagoans in the impacted communities and the city at large are protected and enhanced if a Chicago site is chosen. Most importantly, I want to remind all that there are 3 potential sites in Chicago for this Obama Presidential Center, now that the city of Chicago has ruled out a 4th site. The 3 sites were selected by the Obama Presidential Foundation from among 24 or so sites initially proposed in Chicago. Our goal is to do all that we can to ensure that we in Chicago bring the Obama Presidential Library back to his hometown. We cannot presume what site the Obama Foundation and the President and First Lady will ultimately choose, but we do want to do all that we can to help tilt that decision in favor of Chicago at the end of the day. We are seeking public input. We are here seeking public input on potentially siting the Obama Presidential site on either of 2 parcels of land owned by the Chicago Park District. One of the proposed sites is at the perimeter of Washington Park, the other in Jackson Park. The Obama Foundation has clearly stated its preference that the 2 South Side sites it favors be land under the City of Chicago control. The public input here today gives us, as the Park District, the convener of this meeting, a perspective on how the proposed sites would be received by their neighbors and by the city at large. Our role as the Chicago Park District is to ensure that parkland is used to the enhancement of the communities it serves. In most cases, that represents green space, but not always. There are multiple precedents in Chicago of cultural institutions that exist on parkland to the great benefit of Chicagoans and the world beyond. Our goal is to ensure that should either, and I repeat, should either the Washington Park or Jackson Park site be selected by the Presidential Foundation, that the interests of the surrounding communities are protected and that the park itself and the city of Chicago are enhanced by the use of that site if it comes to that. And finally, and most importantly, that the Park District retain possession of the land if at any point in the future the Obama Library would be decommissioned. Now, there will be a brief presentation from Skidmore, Owings, and Merrill's architects to more clearly define the parcels of land proposed for use, and after that we will open the meeting to testimony from interested parties. I reiterate, though, we are here to discuss only 2 of the 3 potential sites that might encompass Park District land, not to promote other sites that you feel should be considered. That ship has sailed. Only 3 potential Chicago sites remain. All others were ruled out by the Obama Foundation. The decision on siting will not be determined by the Chicago Park District or by the City of Chicago. The siting decision rests with the President and the First Lady and the Obama Foundation. I respectfully request, that each speaker confine his or her comments to 2 minutes, unless, of course, you're asked to clarify a point of concern. I would also ask that groups and organizations represented by multiple members come up to the microphone as a group, but elect one member to speak for the 2-minute comment period so that we can hear a range of views. We suggest this as a way to hear many different views. As chair, I reserve the right to solicit this wide range of views, and if groups elect not to adhere to that recommendation, I may steer you along. I also reserve the right to ensure that our discussion here is germane to the issue at hand and no other issues. There are many other issues that I see people are here to discuss, but those issues are not germane to the question of whether the Obama Library would be on either of these 2 parcels of land. So at this point, I'd like to recommend my fellow commissioner, or recognize my fellow commissioner, Tim King, who has joined us. And I'd like to open it to the presentation from the University of Chicago. Excuse me. No. We will ask that you respect each other and respect the process.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I'm Derek Douglas, Vice President for Civic Engagement at the University of Chicago. And on behalf of the university and the many community partners we have collaborated with throughout this process, I want to thank the Chicago Park District and the City of Chicago for this opportunity to share important information about the effort to bring the Barack Obama Presidential Center to the south side of Chicago. This presidential center represents a unique and historic opportunity for our city, particularly for the South Side, the place the President and First Lady call home. This will be the first truly urban presidential library, which means it will have a greater impact on economic development, culture, and education than any presidential center before it. It will also touch many more people, especially local residents in the communities. We want these economic, cultural, and educational benefits for Chicago and for the South Side. Our youth, in particular, would be inspired by this library, which will pay tribute to a president who lived, worked, and began his political career in the same communities where they live, play, and go to school. Over the past year, we have been working to ensure that the South Side effort is a collaborative one that reflects input from the local community and the city. We have talked with hundreds of individuals and groups in more than 150 meetings, as well as with our local electeds and representatives from the city and the Barack Obama Foundation. The feedback we receive from the community has been hugely important in shaping the sites we propose to the foundation. Community members told us the Presidential Center should go in a neighborhood where it can bring the most economic benefit. That led us away from university-owned property in Hyde Park, which is where the bulk of the university land is. We also heard from the community that it was important that current residents not be displaced by the library, but rather that they benefit from the library. While there are vacant lots in Woodlawn and Washington Park, there is not a 20 to 30 acre parcel of contiguous land to house the Presidential Center campus without displacing people. Over the course of the past year, our conversations with the community and the foundation included the discussion of more than a dozen potential locations for the Presidential Center. However, as we have progressed through the process, the foundation has expressed strongest interest in 2 particular sites, one in the Washington Park neighborhood, which includes land owned by the university, and the other in Woodlawn. Locating the Obama Presidential Center in either Washington Park or Woodlawn would drive major investments and growth, providing an unprecedented boost to the economy on the South Side. Last year, we commissioned an independent firm to analyze the library's potential economic impact. They found that the library would result in direct investments of about $600 million into the community, draw 800,000 annual visitors to the South Side, create nearly 3,300 local construction jobs, create 1,900 new permanent local jobs through the library, the museum, and the creation of new businesses, help to create at least 40 new stores, restaurants, and a hotel in neighborhoods near the library, have an annual impact of $220 million a year, increase local earnings by $56 million a year, increase tax revenue for the city and Chicago public schools by $3 million a year. In a word, it would be transformative. Along with these economic benefits, the Obama Presidential Center would bring a major new cultural offering to the South Side. It would enhance local cultural organizations and create educational experiences for our young people. The Presidential Center would become a jewel in the Museum Campus South network, which includes the Museum of Science and Industry, the DuSable Museum of African American History, and other South Side cultural institutions. As a new destination for children across the city and for visitors from around the world, the Presidential Center would draw from and enhance traffic to these strong institutions, bringing a much-needed boost in tourism to the area. We've talked to various civic and community organizations, including museums, nonprofits, and other universities, and they have presented a wealth of ideas for potential programmatic collaborations with the Presidential Center. These ideas include providing new programming for local schools in areas such as science, technology, engineering, and math, enhancing the work of local nonprofits, serving youth through free tutoring, nutrition education, and recreation, and exploring ways to offer new opportunities for a range of community residents, such as through urban agriculture, workforce training for youth, and options for ex-offenders. These and other ideas support the priorities of the President and the First Lady in critical areas, including education, health, and economic opportunity. I now would like to ask Phil Enquist from Skidmore, Owings, and Merrill to provide a bit more detail about the two proposed sites.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming tonight, and thank you, Hyde Park Academy, for accommodating us. I'm going to take 5 minutes and show you 9 slides that will show you the sites that are being proposed and why we think they are so important to this Presidential Center, the Southside communities, the park system as a whole, the city of Chicago, and the nation. As Derek noted, we are responding to the Barack Obama Foundation's request that we put forward our best possible sites for the Presidential Center. We want to make it clear to the foundation to choose Chicago, and specifically the South Side. This slideshow that's up now shows the two sites in context with the surrounding neighborhoods and the historic Olmsted parks. It highlights that this will be the first urban presidential library engaging directly with and creating opportunities for the neighboring communities. We know the President and First Lady are deeply interested in health, in education, culture, food, and the restoration of the environment. These sites can directly support the kinds of programs we can imagine being developed at the Presidential Center. Locating the Obama Presidential Center in one of these great historic parks can provide a remarkable opportunity for a remarkable partnership. This slide that you see now shows the center within Jackson Park and Washington Park. I'll point these two out for you if you can't see them. The Washington Park site is along Stony Island, just south of the Midway Plaisance.
That's Jackson Park.
Jackson Park, sorry. Oh my God, sorry.
Paying attention.
I might as well just go home. And what was I saying? The best site? The Washington Park site is here along King Drive at Garfield. Okay. Am I okay?
You're good.
All right. Just one note, the Washington Park site also includes a parcel of university and city-owned land that is across the street west of King Drive. The foundation could also choose to build on a portion of this land as well, which is adjacent to the Green Line CTA station at 55th. This is a diagram of these two sites, Jackson Park on the right, Washington Park on the left. Both are around 20 acres, 20, 21, 22 acres. The blue dot we're showing as a diagram is really an example of the building footprint, which we think would be around 3 acres out of this 21 acres. We may not need, the foundation may not need the full 20 acres. We don't really know at this point. We don't know the number of buildings, the design of the buildings, where they'll be located, or exactly how much space they'll occupy, but this diagram was for all of our benefit to understand the built area versus the open space area. Just to give you a benchmark, let's look at 4 past presidential libraries. So we have the Lyndon B. Johnson Library on the far left, a 30-acre site. The building area is 4 acres. The Jimmy Carter Library and Museum, 35-acre site, 2.5-acre building footprint. The William Clinton Library and Museum, 38 acres, 2-acre building footprint. George W. Bush Library and Museum, 23 acres, 3 acres. Now, the Barack Obama Presidential Center may be very different from this, but we thought it would be helpful to look at these as benchmarks. Let's look at some other aspects of these sites. Chicago is the center of the country, and these sites are in the center of an active transportation network. Because of this urban location, experts are estimating that the Presidential Center will see about 800,000 visitors a year. Getting to the Presidential Center by transit is critical. The Washington Park site, as I mentioned, is adjacent to the CTA Green Line 55th Street station, a critical adjacency making rail very accessible. The Jackson Park site is adjacent to the Metro Electric Line, the 59th, 60th Street station, and the 63rd Street station. These station improvements, which would be encouraged, will also help bring more people into this Chicago Park system. In addition, these sites are easy for visitors to access by car via the Dan Ryan, Lakeshore Drive, Garfield Boulevard, Stony Island, and Martin Luther King Drive. These sites are at a critical crossroads in the city and link very well to our international airports. Visitors will provide growth for local businesses, enlivening the commercial corridors. The Washington Park site, as you all know, sits on Garfield Boulevard and will enliven Garfield Boulevard. The Jackson Park site will enliven Stony Island and 63rd Street. These 2 sites are located among a number of great educational institutions, including the Hyde Park Academy. The Presidential Center would partner with these schools and others across the city to expand and enrich educational programming. And lastly, both sites would also complement a growing number of cultural organizations on the South Side. This slide shows the cultural institutions that are located in or near Jackson Park and Washington Park sites. And you can see the library, or the Presidential Center, would strengthen this cultural ribbon. A Southside Museum campus is forming, and the Presidential Center would be a great partner with this. In summary, speaking personally, there is a power and a global significance to these 2 park sites that make them appropriate ground upon which to set this historically unique American president's enduring footprint. I love these t-shirts and sweatshirts that say, let's bring this library home, so let's bring it home. Thank you very much.
Thank you. As we are on the doorstep of Jackson Park and next door to Washington Park, it is appropriate that we hear from both of the advisory councils. So I'd like first to hear from Louise McCurry, who is the chairperson of the Jackson Park Advisory Council. Louise, are you available? And while she's coming, Cecilia Butler, would you also come to the microphone? Representing the Washington Park Advisory Council. Good evening, please.
All right, folks. How many of you know that Jackson Park is one of the most amazing parks in the city? Put your hands together for Jackson Park. The Jackson Park Advisory Center has brought over 2,000 volunteers into Jackson Park to make it a beautiful place this year. It's a perfect place for children. For me, it's always about the children. So if we have the Presidential Library, obviously in Jackson Park, children will come to the park. Children will come to the libraries. One who's taken my children to 4 presidential libraries around the country. I love presidential libraries because children see the possibilities for their life in 20 years. They see the struggles young people take to get through their education, get through college, and become President of the United States. Secondly, Jackson Park is absolutely the most beautiful natural setting, but we have community gardens, and we have 3 beaches, and we have a wonderful Museum of Science and Industry, and we have the Japanese gardens. We have all these amazing places that a family could come visiting the Presidential Library and spend their day in Jackson Park. For many years, the south side of Chicago has been by the rest of the city told, had the illusion it's a dangerous place to be. We know better. We know that Jackson Park is the most amazing place to bring your children, to bring your families, your old people, your people in wheelchairs, because Jackson Park rocks. Not saying Washington Park doesn't rock, but Jackson Park rocks. It's a place where families can come and do wonderful things. So if the library comes to Jackson Park, we'll be excited. Of course, we always like to use less park land, but we're hard at work in taking land that was used before by the Nike missile site and by old parking lots and turning it back into green space so that our children have more space, of course, to play soccer and to play football, because we have the best soccer teams and the best football teams in the city of Chicago and Jackson Park. And it's a place where older people can come and enjoy the peace and quiet of bird watching and looking at animals through the park. If you like playing tennis, we got bunches of tennis courts. It's all here. So
You
Jackson
have
Park is a
exceeded your
great
2
place.
minutes.
Jackson Park is a great place to hang out. We hope it comes to our park. If it does, we'll be very excited. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise. Cecilia Butler, Washington Park Advisory Council.
Has the Park District ever had this many people to come to a hearing?
No.
No, I don't think so. You are all park lovers, obviously. I don't have to tell you about Washington Park. Just come and see. But I do have to tell you that because of a community torn between should we have it, should we? It wasn't until they started talking, meaning University of Chicago started talking about parkland, that it was serious. Yes, serious.
Speak up.
Now, the most important thing is that, yes, we support the Presidential Library in Washington Park, the community, and the park, but only if he tells us so. We don't want anybody else making a decision for him, including the mayor. We don't even want to think that anybody else made that decision, but President Obama and his family. Now, since you brought in parkland, we feel that if the president says he wants Washington Park, we'll have to give it to him. But that land in the park cannot be given to someone else, to the city of Chicago even. It must stay with the Park District. Because guess what? They've done an excellent job, especially since 1986 when they were sued to do a good job. And why we here today as advisory council people, I'm not here just because of it. I'm here because I'm dedicated to my park. So the foundation, President Obama, we love you, but the idea that it must be beyond and be given to the city of Chicago, rethink that. Keep it within the Park District because we are #1 in this country as a Park District.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, what I would like to do is to have, to hear from the public, which is what we came to do. Who has the list of comment cards? Would you call the first 6 names, please?
Absolutely.
I'm asking the people to line up To respect the process, remember 2 minutes if you want to hear from a wide variety of views. Please call the names.
At this time, can I please have Dr. Brazier, Wallace Good, Dr. Carol Adams, I'm going to Father Tony, M-A-Z-O-R from Mount Carmel, Alderman Ferretti,
Let us begin.
Good evening, Madam Chairman. My name is Dr. Byron Brazier. I'm the pastor of the Apostolic Church of God, but I also represent several community stakeholders and organizations recognized as the Network of Woodlawn and its 4 pillars.
Good evening.
Everyone is well aware of the economic impact that a library can have, a presidential library can have. In several interviews that I have been given, it's so important that we recognize that this library is important to the city of Chicago. But as Mr. Obama, President Obama, is the first black African-American president, that his library should be in one of our communities. Part of the economic development, even though there may be some opposition, given the 1,000 acres between Washington Park, the Midway Plaisance, and Jackson Park, 20 acres does not seem to be a lot of land to be taken away. The third element is really about not what we want to be against or what we want to protest against, but what we want to build. There have been those who,
Please respect the process. Excuse me, please.
There have been those who would believe that this is a university land grant. I must say that I've worked with the university over the last several years, and the university, in their interest of having the presidential library here, has done an honest job of bringing together all of the stakeholders. And being an institution, you must have an institution that can compete against the other institutions such as Hawaii and Columbia. And we should recognize that we as a community do have a strength in our community that can be used, and it's called the University of Chicago. Finally, I'd like to say this one last thing, and that is that this particular project, and I remember when everybody wanted the Olympics, and they talked about how much the Olympics would actually bring to the city of Chicago. When you look at it, this presidential library will actually be bigger and bring a greater benefit to the city of Chicago than the Olympics. Not
30
just now,
seconds remaining.
but in perpetuity. Madam Chairman, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Madam Timekeeper, I think it would be easy for people to be able to gauge their comments if you would give them time cues. So when they get to 1 minute, would you let them know that? When they get to 30 seconds, would you also let them know that? Thank you very much. Who is our second speaker, please?
Wallace Good.
Good evening. I'm Wallace Good, the Executive Director of the Hyde Park Chamber of Commerce. The Commerce was founded in 1939, and for 75 years, we have been committed to the development and enhancement of business and commercial entities on the South Side. In these 75 years, we've learned how businesses work and think. We are all about economic development, which means employment opportunities, flourishing businesses, and a vibrant fiscal community. The Obama Presidential Library is wonderfully, incredibly, outrageously supportive of each of these endeavors. The Obama Presidential Library will bring to the South Side much needed economic growth, we all understand that, badly needed employment, who could argue with that, and an incredible boost to our community with many new business opportunities. With these possibilities in mind, the Hyde Park Chamber of Commerce wants to go on record in full support of the Obama Presidential Library. Our 269 members want to be on board.
1 minute remaining.
Full support of the Obama Presidential Library. That really throws you off. Coming to Chicago.
By design.
Coming to Chicago, and in particular to the South Side. We encourage all stakeholders to come together. This shouldn't be a divisive argument. This should be one that allows us to decide what an incredible opportunity we have at this historic, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The Hyde Park Chamber says, bring it on home.
30 seconds remaining.
Thank you. Alderman Fioretti, welcome to the hearing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You know, quite frankly, we shouldn't be here today. We are all in favor of the library, and everyone wants to have the library here. The emotional fix was in for the library. This is a place where he began community organizing at 111th and Cottage Grove. He became a state senator. He started a family here. He got married here. He became a U.S. senator here. And really and then in Grant Park, he gave his speech, his acceptance speech that night. We shouldn't be here. We shouldn't be dividing up our communities and saying whether or not we should be giving up parkland. It's just wrong. That's what, and the University of Chicago can find better ways and a better source to create the library here. We have one strong bid already from the UIC, and we should make this a strong bid too. Let the presidential family decide for us, but let's not cloud the issue for them where it's become destructive, and it has become destructive. This 11th hour, 59th minute of a conversation that is just, and it doesn't hold transparency, accountability, and what people value the most, input.
1 minute remaining.
2 minutes of 2 meetings here. We should not be here today. We all want the library. We want to bring it home. When I saw that one picture of the posters on LaSalle Street that in November after the president was elected, it brought back a sense of pride about what our nation is and what we've done. But here, we've ended up dividing everybody. USC should not be using
30
our
seconds
property
remaining.
for it. They should find a different way to make that bid accessible and make it a strong bid. But let's not use public land again, because that's what we see happening all over. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman.
And we'll see you all tomorrow at the board meeting.
Dr. Adams.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity.
Excuse me, please.
Thank you so much. Give me my chance to talk. Thank you very much. Put in a card and get up here. My name is Carol Adams. I'm the immediate past president of the DuSable Museum and a founding member of Museum Campus South.
Dr. Adams, excuse me 1 second. Sir, if you cannot respect the process, you won't be able to stay in here.
I'm glad we're all here having an opportunity to voice our opinions about this and add this to the over 150 meetings that have already been held on this topic. I encourage the Park District, the City of Chicago, and all other stakeholder entities to see the educational, cultural, and economic development of these communities and the honoring of our homegrown president as paramount in citing the Obama Presidential Library on Chicago's legendary South Side. As a devotee of museums and the iconic Frederick Homestead, I'm glad we are not making any small plans. Historically, Chicago's major museums are located in parks, and the marriage has been a good one. I applaud the minimal displacement of residents and businesses and the park positive aspects of the plan that is under consideration. I shudder to think how long we would have to wait for full-scale development without the library.
1 minute remaining.
And do not think it should be held hostage for any reason. This is a win-win-win that respects the authentic voice of the community to be self-determining. Let's bring it on home.
Thank you, Dr. Adams. Could I ask that you call the next 6 people so that they can line up as testimony begins? So please call the next 6 people, and then we'll hear from Father.
Did Dr. Tony? Oh, all right. So you're up here. Mr. Arnold Randall, Shirley Newsom, Dr. Leon Finley,
Finney.
I'm sorry. David Masani.
Mosina.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Old teachers never die.
And this name I have to spell Tyreusite from Rainbow Push.
Father, please go ahead.
Good evening. I'm Father Tony Mazurka, the serve as president of Mount Carmel High School. And our entire Mount Carmel High School community is 100% in favor of the south side of Chicago as a home for the Obama Presidential Center. Daily access to and ongoing partnerships with the Presidential Center would be a tremendous source of inspiration for our 700 young men who come from 119 zip codes and 250 grammar schools, as well as the students from Hyde Park Academy, Kenwood Academy, and the University of Chicago Lab School. This past year, we enhanced our service programs at Mount Carmel by asking all of our young men to provide 1 week of service to the local community, including environmental projects in Washington Park and Jackson Park. And the Obama Presidential Center would offer additional inspiration and, we hope, additional opportunity for student service projects within the community. And finally, as Mount Carmel has been rooted in Woodlawn and has witnessed its development and its change over the past 115 years, we know the impact the Presidential Library would have on the local economy and the safety, especially for our young people. We want Craig Robinson, the First Lady's brother and a 1979 graduate of Mount Carmel High School, and our 15,000 alumni to return to Mount Carmel, to return to the Woodlawn area and experience the economic development and the safety we are sure that the Presidential Center would bring. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Randall.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Arnold Randall. I'm a lifelong resident of Woodlawn. I've lived here my whole life. My family came here in the 1950s, so I have deep roots. I've used Washington Park, the Midway Plaisance, Jackson Park my whole life. I've also had the privilege of managing these parks in previous jobs, so I have, I think, a very interesting perspective on it. There are 11, as I understand it, 11 museums in the parks here in Chicago, and I want to address this issue of open space and museums. There are 11 museums, from the Field Museum to the Museum of Science and Industry, DuSable Museum of African American History, Mexican Arts Museum, and there are any number of newer museums that are in the parks as well. So this is not an unusual thing to have in our park system. In fact, the world would say these are great assets for us. And I would say they're great assets for us. I think there should be a very, very high bar for what you put in the parks and how the parks are used. In my opinion, as a lifelong resident, as a person who has made open space and parks part of his professional life.
1 minute remaining.
I think this meets the bar. A presidential museum, if it were not Barack Obama, would meet the bar. But the fact that it is Barack Obama, the first African-American president, in a park, whether it's Jackson or Washington Park, in parks that are named for presidency of the United States, seems more than appropriate to me. I think part of the challenge here is we don't exactly know what it's going to look like or where things are going to be, and I understand that creates some anxiety, and I have a lot of friends here on both sides of this issue.
30 seconds remaining.
But I want you to know that I think I have a lot of faith in the First Lady and the President on this issue. I have a lot of faith in the folks who are trying to put this together, and I think it would be a huge missed opportunity if we don't have the Presidential Library here on the South Side in the Washington Park community. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, please. Who is our next speaker?
Shirley Newt.
My name is Terrell Scott, and I'd like to say I would like for the library to be here on the South Side in Washington Park. I'd like for, as being a Rainbow Push, I'd like to say that thank you for the Reverend Jackson, and thank you for our mayor and government, new government here. But I'd like to say that I would love for the library to be here, South Side of Chicago. I want to say God bless you and God thank you, and good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. Ms. Newsom.
Madam Chairman and members of the Park District Board, for the record, my name is Shirley Newsom. I am a resident of North Kenwood, Oakland.
Tilt your microphone down just a little bit, please. Thank you.
And I have also served on the advisory board for the Obama Presidential Library. In 1893, Chicago hosted the World's Columbian Exposition on former marshland at the present location of Jackson Park. The exposition drew at that time 27.5 million visitors and is considered the most influential World's Fair in history. The University of Chicago was founded in 1892 on the same South Side location. The term Midway for a fair or carnival referred originally to the Midway Plaisance, a strip of park land
1 minute
that
remaining.
still runs through the University of Chicago campus and connects Washington and Jackson parks. A collaboration of institutions, organizations, and other entities have come together to unite as one to develop what we are referring to as a cultural coast on the South Side, connecting the various museum campuses from the lakefront to Washington Park along the Midway. For that reason, my personal preference for the location of the Obama Presidential Library would be the Washington
30
Park
seconds
site.
remaining.
That said, I am also in favor of Jackson Park site, as it too is located on the southeast side of Chicago. The Obamas have a connection to this part of the city, and it would be a shame not to be able to bring them home.
Thank you. Dr. Finney? But before Dr. Finney starts, would you call the next 6 testifiers, please?
Sure. Sel Dunlap. The last name is P-A-L-A-C-I-O. Bonita Johnson Gabriel. The first name is George. I cannot, the last name, I'm going to try and spell B-L-A. Oh,
oh, George Blakemore.
Sure.
We know him, Mr. Blakemore.
Manny Perez. Reginald Armstrong. 3, 4, 5. Those are the next 6.
Okay. Dr. Finney, thank you. Excuse me. Please respect the process.
My name is Leon Finney. I'm a citizen of the City of Chicago, State of Illinois, and United States of America. We are here today to express our right as citizens to urge an affirmative vote by the Park District and every other body to support the Obama Library for the City of Chicago. It's time to bring President Obama back to Chicago. It's time to say yes to the plan to build the Obama Library in Chicago. It's time to vote yes to the building of the Obama Library on the south side of the city of Chicago. It's time to vote to invest $600 million in our neighborhoods now. It's time to vote yes to attracting 800,000 visitors every year. It's time to vote yes to those who will spend money in our neighborhoods. It's time to vote yes to the creation of 5,000 jobs for our people. It's time to create new businesses for our black women and our black men. It's time to say yes to rebuilding our neighborhood. It's time to say yes, Mr. President. We want you to bring it on home. We came to win it. We came to get this library for the city of Chicago, for the south side of the city of Chicago, for Woodlawn, for Jackson Park, for Washington Park. Bring it on home. Vote yes. Vote yes.
Let me please clarify something. I need to clarify. Dr. Finney, I appreciate your passion, but let me clarify the fact that there is no issue before the Park District Board on which it is voting. We are not at a Park District Board meeting. We are at a public hearing. We respect your opinion and we appreciate it, but we are here to get all of the public input. At some point, we may be asked to vote, but it's not today. I just want to be clear. I just want to be clear. Please.
Hi,
Excuse me. Please. Respect our speaker.
Hi, I am C.M. Winters Palacio. I'm a college librarian. I am also a CPS parent and a proud citizen of the 21st Ward. And after now, I'm disappointed I got to follow Dr. Finney. But as a preacher's daughter, I'm certain I could be a great wing woman. I think it's important that the library is on the South Side. A lot of us young leaders have studied President Barack Obama. We have especially learned from his narrative about not waiting your turn, but being ready for the call. I think it's important that not only is it on the South Side, but that the library sends certain distinct messages that are unapologetic. For example, it's wonderful that the library, and it should be in Chicago, but there should be also an understanding that no public school should be without a library. In addition to that, I know we talk about economic justice,
1 minute
but I'm
remaining.
concerned about the ripple effect. And one of the ripple effects is the foreclosures that have hit the Chicago area. So if we're talking about economic justice, let the justice begin now with the narrative of saying that those homes that are still in foreclosure, those loan modifications should be based on the
We are going to try
value.
to stay to the topic of the citing.
Last but not least, in addition to that site, I believe that there should be an adequate leadership development center that brings in the love of nature as well as
30
the importance
seconds
of
remaining.
civic engagement. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me say again, I know that there are a variety of different issues that people are concerned about tonight in addition to or instead of the siting of these or potential siting of the library in these two parks. You may have some very valid issues. You really may have some incredibly valid points that you seek to make, but this is not the forum for it. This is the opportunity to talk about these two potential sites in Washington Park and in Jackson Park. So we're going to try to stay on what is germane to the topic out of respect to the people who came here and the people who are in the other room. They came to talk about the siting or potential siting of the Presidential Library. Thank you. Dr. Messina?
She tried to get me to go before him. Good evening, Madam Chairman. My name is David Messina. I'm the president and CEO of the Museum of Science and Industry. I'm also a Hyde Park resident for over 40 years. I'm a member of the University of Chicago Community Advisory Board, and I support the library coming to the South Side. To me, the most significant benefit will be the inspirational impact the library can have on our youth. Cultural institutions can open minds, open doors, and open worlds. As the president of MSI, I meet people almost every day who tell me how our museum has changed their lives by inspiring them to become scientists and engineers, mathematicians and doctors. Imagine the students who visit the Obama Presidential Library. They'll see their own potential in a president of the United States from this very neighborhood as they grow to become tomorrow's citizens and leaders. The city's parks are one of our greatest and most impressive and most important and precious assets, and we must be faithful stewards of them. I deeply respect the park advocates for their watchdog role and the stewardship
1 minute remaining
on behalf of our parks. We're a much better city for their efforts. However, there are many good precedents for museums and museum expansions in our city, which have added greatly to the vitality and the culture of Chicago as a world-class city. The Obama Presidential Library on the South Side will have a small footprint on parkland, but a large impact in our community.
30 seconds remaining.
I'm honored to support this historic endeavor and the community's future. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Messina. I'm going to take a point of personal privilege to acknowledge Alderman Willie Cochran, in whose ward we sit. Alderman, thank you very much. Our next speaker.
Good evening, panel.
Good evening.
Good evening, Southside. You have referred to us respecting the process. I want the library to come to Chicago so bad that if he were to take it to New York, I would take whatever literary skills I might possess and write a book called The Audacity of a Dope. The process says, this is from the Administrative Office of the Courts, which dictates how this process should proceed. If the proposer is requesting a change,
1 minute remaining,
the request must set forth the recommended change and the proposer's reasons for proposing the change. Questions or requests submitted after the due date and time will not be answered. I'm a spiritual resident of North Lawndale. I believe in what it is going to do in terms of contributing to that community. I love you, Southside. Trust me. But in terms of the contribution that it can make to some people who need this economic engine, there's no comparison. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Bernita Johnson Gabriel. I'm the Executive Director for Quad Communities Development Corporation, and I'm also a resident of neighboring Bronzeville. A piece of the pie. A piece of the pie. You always hear us say, a piece of the pie. What exactly does that mean for the South Side? It means economic development, economic growth, economic empowerment. 800,000 new visitors will command restaurants, shops, entertainment, and last but certainly not least, a cultural experience. Think about that for a moment. McCormick Place attracts nearly 3 million visitors annually. The South Side would be on pace to attract nearly 1 million visitors. What is conceivably a sliver of either park can be parlayed into a huge piece of the pie for Southside communities that have endured years of disinvestment. I appreciate the sentiment of those who would try to tell you that parks should be off limits for the Obama Library. I really do. But most likely, they have not experienced the decline and disinvestment these communities have endured. They most likely do not live in communities with double-digit unemployment, crime, and an overall substandard quality of life. The Obama Presidential Library will be a catalyst like no other and give the South Side a bigger piece of the pie.
Remaining.
Bring it on home to the South Side. Bring it on home.
Thank you. Would you please call the next 6 speakers?
Alderman Willie Cochran, Dory MCHORTR. McWhorter.
Mr. Blakemore, could you just wait 1 second while we call the rest of the people? Thank you.
Yes.
Ava, Benezra. Maddie Butler. Rue, and the spelling of the last name is Tangliang. And the last one, the spelling of the name is Qufuruan.
Thank you, Mr. Blakemore. Please proceed.
Thank you. I have seen black people, colored folks, Negroes, African Americans, or whatever name you go by today, being hoodwinked by so-called economic development. The one who bears the gift is the University of Chicago. Historically, have not been good neighbors and a friend to people of color, black people. Black people. Now they bear the gift and say it's economic development, $600 million. Do you think you'll get it? You African American, color folks, Negroes, or black, whatever name you go by, that when that development comes, you won't get it. Will this development make a community agreement with the black community that these jobs, goods, services, and contracts will be delivered? My people, don't go for the okie-doke here. Don't rush. Demand that this park district have several community meetings, just not these two, and come down to the park board and let them know. These political hacks come up here, black political hacks also, preaching and telling you, but they're working for the enemy.
30 seconds remaining.
Working for the enemy. Go to the grad school of the University of Chicago and see how many black people in the medical school. How many are in these different departments? They have devastated the community. University of Chicago, all over on State Street. They got land if they want to use your own. Don't use taxpayers' land, the park district. And politicians, stay out of it. Stay out of it. I want my people to get good service, contracts, and jobs. And don't trust the University of Chicago and so-called black leadership and political hacks.
Thank you, Mr. Blakemore. Thank you. You may proceed.
I would like to start by thanking members of the committee for providing this opportunity for testimony.
Excuse me, could we quiet down, please? Thank you.
My name is Reginald Armstrong. I'm the Membership Experience Director and Operations Director for the South Side and Wabash YMCAs. I'm here today to express the Y's full support of building the Obama Presidential Library on Chicago's South Side, either Washington or Jackson Park. In the early 2000s, the Obamas brought their young daughters to the South Side Y on 63rd and Stony for their birthday parties. In addition, this state Senator Obama obtained state funding to expand the facility with a 7,000 square foot early learning annex to support 100 additional early childhood slots for local families. We are proud of the President of the United States that he has continued that commitment to the Y through his fight for the expansion of early childhood education opportunities in our nation's most challenging neighborhoods. We enthusiastically welcome the opportunity to bring more opportunity to continue his legacy here on the South Side. The YMCA is a logical and natural fit for a robust, pragmatic collaboration with the Barack Obama Foundation and Presidential Library, not only because of the Obama's own personal connection to the Y, but because we align ourselves together. The Y's mission anchors are academic readiness, character development, violence prevention, and healthy living. Again, the Y of Metro Chicago looks forward to continuing the President's legacy as an advocate for youth and families here in Chicago on the South Side. Bring it on home.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Alderman, you may go.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm so glad to have you all out today in the numbers that are here. Ladies and gentlemen, do you all remember the night that the inauguration took place and we won the election? And how many people were down in that park? Wasn't that exciting? Do you all remember when we went out to Washington, D.C. and we filled the parkway out there with millions of people? It is just as exciting to talk about bringing this home today. And I just want to say this. I want to welcome the president back home. I want to welcome Michelle back home. I want to welcome the girls back home. And I want to welcome economic development, jobs, and opportunities, and improved education, and safety, and other things that go along with that to our communities. And so, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very much for coming out. And we want to send a message to the president. Come home. We can take care of this park issue. And we welcome you. And we are very proud of you and your family for the work that they have done. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Hi.
evening.
Good evening.
I'm Dory McCorder, the CEO of the YWCA Metropolitan Chicago, where we serve over 200,000 women and families. We know the significant impact that economic opportunities can have for women, their families, and their communities through our providing services for over 50 years throughout the South Side of Chicago. As a community stakeholder, we are supportive of the proposed placement of either South Side location. There's a proverb that says, "That which is done for us and not with us is done to us." And our women do not need others to tell them how the parkland should be used for them. Rather, we like to work with the Obama Presidential Library to use the parkland in a way that would best serve them and create greater economic opportunities for them and their families. In our written testimony, which I'll provide, we outline how using the parkland will also contribute to better safety, learning opportunities for our youth, including our young parents that are here with us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before you testify, could you hold 1 second while we call the next 6 speakers?
Alex, P-L-E-T-Z, Emma, L-O-B-O-U-T-Y, Jennifer, R-O-S-U-A, this one I can't read, Derek, S-K-O-S-E-Y,
Scousy.
And some of these, Sarah, W-A-R-T-I-N-I. Some of these are.
Please begin. You may begin. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Maddie Butler, and I am a resident of the Woodlawn community. I am also the executive director of Woodlawn East Community and Neighbors, which has served this community for some 38 years. I live on 65th and Stony Island. I have lived there since 1963. And so I am an elder here speaking for the library to come to the South Side. It does make a difference to me if it comes to Woodlawn because that's where I live. It doesn't make a difference to me if it comes to another part of the South Side because I live on the South Side. So wherever it comes, it will be added to the South Side and to Chicago. It's a right thing to do, to use public land for public use. And there is nothing more public than the President of the United States Library. And so I say it's a right thing to do. It's a right thing to do for the University of Chicago to be the forerunner because Michelle Obama worked at the University of Chicago. It's the right thing to do for our children, for our economic development, for the city of Chicago. We hope you will do what is the right thing to do with that land.
Thank you, Ms. Butler. Mr. Scousy.
Good evening. My name is Peter Scousy. I'm Executive Vice President at the Metropolitan Planning Council. Consistent with the principles we communicated to the Barack Obama Presidential Foundation in December, the Metropolitan Planning Council is pleased that the University of Chicago's 2 proposed sites for the Barack Obama Presidential Library are near public transportation and in areas that will benefit from economic development and enhanced amenities. This is generally responsive to 3 of MPC's 4 guiding principles. Clearly, the most vexing of our 4 guiding principles is the use of parkland. MPC is listening to the community residents who want this prestigious institution and all of its positive impacts for an area that has long been too far forgotten. Although we have stated that park space should not be the first choice, MPC understands that locating the library in or near either Jackson Park or Washington Park has great potential to bring value to surrounding neighborhoods and the city and region as a whole. Any parkland occupied by the future library must be replaced with an equal or greater amount of new green space nearby, identified and developed following community input.
1 minute remaining.
MPC reiterates that the chosen site must be well served by public transportation, and the additional investments in nearby land and infrastructure should be coordinated to maximize public access and benefit. Restoration of the nearby parks, inspired by Frederick Law Olmsted's original vision, is a prime example of such investments. Restoring these public spaces to the splendor of Olmsted's original vision would significantly enhance their value to the neighborhood and the entire South Side. We are grateful to
30 seconds remaining.
Olmsted expert Vicki Ranney and her spouse George Ranney, who have put their thoughtful contributions into a roadmap. When its doors open, the President Barack Obama Library will be one of only 14 presidential libraries in the nation. MPC stands ready, as we have for 80 years, to support quality, well-planned development in Chicago and across our region. There are critical, specific details that would need to be hammered out on commitments to improved transit, local economic development, enhanced neighborhood amenities, and replacement park space.
You have exceeded your 2 minutes.
We look forward to opening the park's doors in the near future, the library's doors in the near future. Thank you very much.
I would ask, if you have to have conversations, would you please step outside, because the noise level is getting to the point where the people who are testifying cannot be heard by the rest of the audience. So please respect the speakers by stepping outside to have sidebar conversations. You will be allowed to return. Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Ava Benezra, and I'm with a group called the Campaign for Equitable Policing. It's a campaign of the Southside Solidarity Network. I think we all recognize tonight that the Obama Library coming to the U of C and the South Side would raise unique opportunities. But I think it's also clear that it raises some particular challenges that I think we need to discuss.
Are they challenges for the Park District?
The Park District, insofar as it's policed by the CPD and the UCPD, which is meaningfully
impacted. The Park District isn't policed by the CPD.
It's indeed. However, if the U of C acquires this land and puts the library in this place...
The U of C is not proposing to acquire the land. I want to be clear. I want to be clear. I want to be clear because I don't want her to start down the road.
I understand. I think, though, that one of the issues that is brought up by this entire conversation tonight is whether or not the Obama Library coming to the South Side and having as its institutional home the U of C, whether or not that means the expansion of the UCPD's
1 minute remaining.
Okay, I'll try to shorten this.
Let her speak, please.
Thank you. Sure. So historically, as the U of C's property holdings has expanded, or has their interest in the South Side expanded, as it would with this library coming here, so too has the UCPD's jurisdiction. And meaning now that it's the primary police force or the large police force for over 6.5 square miles of the South Side. And that's a significant switch.
30 seconds remaining.
That's a significant...
Let her speak, please.
Thank you. That's a significant switch. It's not the simple move between a police force that offer equal services, the CPD and the UCPD. Indeed, the UCPD offers less community accountability in a few meaningful ways. Not only does it offer almost no complaint process for non-students, but indeed it refuses to release records of its stops, ensuring that racial profiling can occur with almost total impunity. I bring this up today because I think it's important when talking about the future for President Obama's institutional legacy, that we remember, for example, that one of Obama's earliest actions in Illinois was to enact legislation requiring that every public police department...
You have exceeded 2 minutes.
Let her finish.
Thank you. In Illinois was to make public and analyze data on racial profiling, information that the UCPD has thus far, despite community calls for it, has refused to release. He has continued this work through his My Brother's Keeper initiative, and I think it's important to keep this consideration in mind when discussing the future home of this legacy.
Can you conclude?
Sure. By bringing this up, I hope to invite the U of C to enter into a dialogue with Hyde Park residents and community members about these changes so that this community can get the police force it deserves. Thank you.
Let me say that however valid these concerns may be, that's not the purpose of this hearing. Let me also say, just for clarity, excuse me, I would ask you to be polite. I would also want to let you know that the Presidential Library, if it should be located here, would not be a library that is operated by the University of Chicago. Presidential libraries are operated by the U.S. Park Service in conjunction with the Presidential Foundation. So that's not a University of Chicago function at all. Next speaker.
Ms. Trina Black.
Call the next 6 speakers, please.
Leroy Bowers. Ms. Comant Murray, Debbie Townsend, Lauren MOLTZ, Willie Eager, Philip Williams, Van BISTROW, Stephanie Franklin.
All right.
Okay.
You may begin.
Thank you. My name is Lauren Maltz. I've been a Southside resident for 45 years. I'm also chair of the Board of Friends of the Parks, and we've been around for 40 years, preserving, protecting, and improving parks. Friends of the Parks is excited at the prospect of the Barack Obama Presidential Library coming to the south side of Chicago. The President and First Lady are deeply connected to this community. We also applaud the siting of the library in a neighborhood such as Washington Park or Woodlawn, where the economic benefits related to the library could greatly enhance neighborhoods in need of attention. Friends of the Parks opposes the siting of the Obama Presidential Library in either of our historic parks. These parks were designed by one of the world's most visionary landscape architects, Frederick Law Olmsted, famous for designing urban parks throughout our country for generations of people to enjoy. They are neither the City of Chicago's, the Chicago Park District, nor the University of Chicago's to carve up and give away. There is way too much vacant land on the south side, which could be creatively utilized to build a dynamic presidential library befitting a truly urban president. Vacant land like the 11 acres on 55th and King across from Washington Park could transform the Washington Park community, reap economic benefits, have accessible transportation, and engage community partnerships. Let's push for an urban design that celebrates the integrity of our historic parks and at the same time celebrates and acknowledges our long neglected South Side communities by utilizing vacant and unused land. Let's not accept the argument that the Obama Presidential Library has to be in a park on the South Side or we will risk losing it. Let's challenge our leaders to do better and think more creatively. I think Barack Obama, community organizer, would be proud of us if we did. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Thanks. Hello, my name is Emma Bounty, and I'm not going to go back and echo some of the prior sentiments about the UCPD, but I think it is important that the university's role in this bid and in what happens with the land and these, ensuing transformations is something that's clarified, because we have seen as the university expands its presence on the south side and accompanying expansion of the jurisdiction of the University of Chicago Police Department and some attendant concerns about lack of community transparency and accountability and racial profiling that goes along with that. I think that it's important to stress, we talk a lot about the Obama Presidential Library as a potential jewel for the South Side, but I think it's important to stress that we don't just need something, the South Side doesn't just need something to show the world, it needs something that's going to actively be enriching the communities that Southsiders inhabit day to day. And I think that encompasses a lot of things, and there are a lot of conversations involved in what bringing the Presidential Library to the South Side in a way where it was a part of a broader transformation of the South Side for South Side residents, what that means. 1 minute remaining. And I think it means things including with these questions about potential UCPD jurisdiction expansion, what would the UCPD do to live up to the legacy of a president who spent his time in the Illinois legislature fighting for police accountability, for transparency, for an examination and interracial profiling, what it would mean to partner with the community in ways that don't just bring economic development in these instances, but in which bring true service to community health needs, including expansion of adult trauma care, and also just investment in our communities in terms of sustained development outside of just this one opportunity. So I think it can't just be a jewel, it needs to be something that is really involved in the larger community process.
Thank you so much. Tenure Black. Mr. Black?
All right, thank you very, very much. I don't come with any paper prepared. I'm in a place where I taught for more than 6 years, Hyde Park High School, so it brings back great memories. And I can say to all of you, at the age of 96, I can say to all of you, I used to be your age. So look forward to being that age. And then you will see experiences like the rise of Barack Obama. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. That's where I would like to have the library. I also spent many years, many times in Washington Park. That's my prejudice, to have the library. I believe that it carries so much history that it can prove to all young people and older people, regardless to race, that as Sam Cooke sang so eloquently, a change is going to come. And that library, being located there, will be another indication of the change that will come. And the idea is to be like Barack Obama, that when the change comes, be prepared. And bringing many of the people all across the world to see how he accomplished what many thought was the impossible. He proved, along with all of us here, that the impossible, we do that right now. And so the library has to be in Chicago on the south side. My preference is Washington Park. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. A point of personal privilege, I'd like to recognize our neighboring alderman, Alderman Leslie Hairston. Thank you. Our next speaker, please. But before you start to speak, would you please announce the next 6 speakers so that we can have them line up? Please line up if your name is called so that we can keep moving.
Next, we have Ted Manuel, Robert Kaufman, Thomas McCrae, Danita, the last name is, cannot make that out, but she's at, it looks like A-R-T-H-E-R, Cassandra Franks. Francis. Dwayne, T-R-E-S-S.
All right. We will begin. Thank you for your patience.
My name is Van Bistro. I work for the University of Chicago for the last 40 years. I will not refer to it as the evil empire, but I think it has done good things. However, you can't hear me? Is this better?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Many of the discussions that have been held so far have been appropriately lauding the benefits of the Presidential Library moving to the south side, and I fully support that idea. The part that doesn't follow for me is that it has to be located in a park. It will have all of those benefits that come to the south side, whether it's located in a park or not. In fact, one of the challenges that, as I understand it, the commission that is trying to cite this library is to benefit a neighborhood that needs it. Parks are not neighborhoods. They're surrounded by neighborhoods. There are neighborhoods on the south side that are in need of economic development and removing blighted property and things like that. The park is the last place that needs that kind of work. And so I fully support the idea of the presidential library on the south side. I think it's a great idea. I think it's a terrible idea to conflate the two issues. And when the chair of this meeting defines the problem to be a choice between two evils, we should not give in to that. We should insist on the best outcome, and that would be developing the library in a neighborhood that needs development,
30
not
seconds
in the middle
remaining.
of a park.
Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is William Eager. I'm the Vice President, Chicago for Preservation of Affordable Housing Incorporated, a not-for-profit developer engaged in a multi-phase, multi-year redevelopment project across Woodlawn. I'm here to voice my support for citing the Barack Obama Presidential Library and Museum in this neighborhood, and I urge you to do all that you can to help in that effort. Along with our partners at the City of Chicago, the University of Chicago, and across the community, we have invested more than $100 million here since 2008 to transform the former troubled Grove Park Plaza along Cottage Grove into a mixed-income, mixed-use community that has brought new life to this area. The Presidential Library will bring that area's revitalization to a new level, building upon a resurgence already in progress. Estimates are that it will attract dozens of businesses and create more than 1,000 permanent jobs. I couldn't think of a better location. In addition to the economic benefits the Obama Presidential Library will bring to the South Side, it also will renew the legacy of our beautiful parks by bringing hundreds of thousands of new visitors to enjoy the grandeur of the Jackson and Washington parks and this community's many other amenities. Its lakefront, its access to public transportation, its tree-lined neighborhoods, and a historic legacy dating back to the World's Fair. And just as the library will honor our nation's first African-American president, building it in this community recognizes the important role the South Side continues to play in Chicago's history and in its future. Woodlawn's engaged community, of which we are proud to be members, would serve as responsible stewards for this national treasure, and we would be honored to be part of that important task. We urge you to help make this possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is Stephanie Franklin. I'm the president of the Nichols Park Advisory Council, and I have worked on behalf of parks for a long time, for many years. First of all, let me say that of course, and yes, and definitely, the President Obama's library should be on the South Side. There is no question about that. Not only in Chicago, but on the South Side of Chicago. That's very, very important. And I can't imagine that the Obama family would choose any other location. However, let me say this. Parks are not land banks. They are not empty land waiting to be developed. They are developed. They are parks. And that is extremely important. Land is finite. And once it's gone, it's simply gone. And the reason, of course, that people want to have their particular pet project, their museum, their welcome center, whatever, in a park is because the parks are jewels, and they do provide a jewel-like setting. However, 20 acres is 13 1/3 football fields. That's an enormous amount of space and not necessary for an urban library. The library could be very, very nicely on 11 acres, and it would have a view of the park and the gardens across the street, not to be equaled anywhere. It should not, the building itself does not need to go in a park. 11 acres is a lot of land, and it could have gardens around it, but it should be near Washington Park, across the street from Washington Park, so that the gardens, but not in Washington Park, so that the gardens would be an asset to the building, which would be across the street. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity. I'd like to first of all say politics, democracy is not always sexy, not always pretty, but my wife is. But I want to say from the West Side contingent, we want to make sure that you all know that the West Side of Chicago supports the Obama Presidential Library being located here in Chicago. As somebody stated about the greatest economic impact would be the North Lawndale community, where you have 23 acres, owned by a city, shovel-ready, ready to go, don't have to go ahead and take public space, none of that good stuff. We got great location, the Eisenhower Expressway, we have the Blue Line. We have multiple bus lines there. So just understand is that the North Lawndale UIC proposal is also a finalist. It's not just the University of Chicago, okay? Now, the land is owned by the city of Chicago. Something I want to refer to with Jackson Park. We got the Chicago Chargers out of Columbus Park as the best football team in Chicago, so you know I'm always going to stand up for the West Side. Now, I want to take a clarity about something. I want to go with what Ms. Butler says, that, you know, yeah, we have museums in the Chicago Park District land.
1 minute
but
remaining.
Those museums and institutions are governed by the Chicago Park District and not conveyed over to another entity. So, yeah, it can coexist, but we're not going to take a position as, you know, about the whole thing about being in the park. We just want to inform you that there is another viable site that is a finalist for the Presidential Library. And the city of Chicago should actually be doing the same thing like this throughout the city, because it's just to educate you all about what's going on. As I like to say, ignorance should be listed as a disease on the CDC website because it's contagious and easily spread. So understand, there's 2 sites in Chicago that's being considered by the Obama Presidential Library Commission Committee. And please, let's not make this thing about West Side versus South Side. The last time I checked, President Obama was once upon a time my U.S. Senator, connecting all communities. And thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. There are 3 sites in Chicago in proposal. 3 sites. 3 sites. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Dr. Willie Wilson. I'm your next mayor of the city of Chicago. And I have one thing to say is that I pledge to all of you all that this library, when I become mayor, will be here in this neighborhood. And that's all I got to say. I vote aye, all right?
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Hi, I'm a Southsider. I'm a born and raised Southsider. I graduated here from Hyde Park in 2010. And I would like to say that I support the University of Chicago, I support the Barack Obama Presidential Library coming to the South Side, but I do not support land in the Park District being divvied up to do that. The reason I do not support that is because, just as the sir mentioned before, there are other sites that are looking to host this library. And the only reason why we're talking about divvying up Southside Parkland is so that the University of Chicago can get it. The reason that the University of Chicago wants that is for what they always wanted it for: money. Money that is not going to go in our community, as the elder before said. I represent an organization that has been demanding that the University of Chicago provide a trauma center for 4 years. We have been ignored for 4 years. So you as a black person, ask yourself, why would you want to give the first black president's presidential library to an institution that has not at all shown any concern, care, or a priority for your life?
Young lady.
Anybody that says that the relationship that the University of Chicago has with the community has nothing to do with the library is a liar and working for the University of Chicago. The young black people want to see changes, everlasting changes, not 3 years worth of $20 million or traffickers or visitors. This school needs investment. CVS needs investment. South Shore needs investment.
Your time is up.
We do not need a library to better our community. We need what's already in the community to be better.
Thank you very much. Got it. Mr. McElroy.
Madam Chairman, I'm Thomas McElroy. I own an African-American technology firm here in Chicago and have done so since 1 week after September 11, 2001. The kinds of jobs that this library will create and afford are those that will allow African-Americans and other minority and women-owned businesses to pay salaries, pay mortgages, put kids through school. None of these will be minimum wage jobs. My reasons for supporting this library and this library development, it is an opportunity to actually change the face of technology and change the face of minority businesses in professional services here in Chicago, and it is an opportunity that this city should not miss or lose. I hope we bring it home. We should bring it home. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Our next speaker, please.
Good evening. I'm Cassandra Francis, president of Friends of the Parks. Friends of the Parks is thrilled the Obamas are considering Chicago as the home of the Obama Presidential Library, an institution that we agree will create tremendous economic and cultural development for this host city. We understand the prestigious academic, archival, and educational advantages that this facility will bring to Chicago, and we celebrate potential partnerships between the Presidential Library and the University of Chicago and other institutions in the city. However, Friends of the Parks opposes the placement of the library in a park or public open space. I will. I am white. You figured that out. I'm not from here, but I'm fighting for this park for you all. However, there are Chicago proposals we do support. Now, while we support the UIC proposal, which is net add of green space, we do support a Washington Park neighborhood proposal. No one's talking about that green site on that map. Green site, out of the park, university owned.
1 minute remaining.
Martin Luther King Drive, on the west side of Martin Luther King Drive, which would support a mid-rise urban building that would be the second urban presidential library. This is an appropriate urban solution and responsible use of land, similar to the recent Logan Center for the Arts building just blocks away. It would allow the Presidential Library to serve as a beacon for the community and a sensitive institutional neighbor to its surroundings. All of the economic benefits discussed will come to the neighborhood, whether it's on the east or west side of Martin Luther King Drive.
30 seconds
We put
remaining.
into question the University of Chicago's premise that the site must be at least 25 acres, which would cause them to need the additional parkland beyond their own 11-acre site. The first urban presidential library is the Kennedy Library in Boston, which resides on a 10-acre site. Further, it's important to note that the Obama Presidential Library should be logically smaller than previous presidential libraries due to the digital and virtual nature of modern-day archives and exhibits. We also oppose the transfer of public parkland, which is held for the benefit of the public, from the Chicago Park District to another public agency or to a private entity. This is an issue that's being followed very closely by a national platform of parties.
You have exceeded 2 minutes.
Chicago's Washington Park, part of Chicago's South Park system, was designed by Frederick Law Olmsted. Let me just, if I can just say one more thing, I was interrupted.
Let her conclude. Please conclude, though.
Let me conclude. We understand the President and Mrs. Obama have the ultimate decision on where they are building this important institution, but the community and the citizens of Chicago deserve their open space. This should not be a choice. In closing, I would like to quote someone who basically said Chicago's historic parks should be enhanced by the Presidential Library, not the home of one. So let's bring the Obama Presidential Library home, but let's also enhance this historic park and the open space it provides for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Before you start, sir, can we call the next speakers so they can line up? Please call the next 6 speakers.
David Fuller. Jenny, spelling of the last name is Hotaling. Jay Foreman. Maya, Hodari. May, Lav is the last name. I just have Rosemary on here, no last name. Mary Jane Richardson Apartments, this person is from. Lorenzo Young.
You may proceed, thank you.
My name is Guion Foreman, and I'm the president of Friends of the Community. I'm speaking today in support of using parkland to build the Barack Obama Presidential Library. As a little boy, Washington Park was my front yard. I grew up across the street from the park. It's where I learned to fish in the lagoon. I ran cross-country track, played archery, basketball, tennis. In Jackson Park, I probably even danced with some of y'all at the house music picnic. I've personally invested time and money into Washington Park and Woodlawn neighborhoods. Why? For one reason, I've always believed in the potential of these communities. I've experienced firsthand the benefits of park space, so I do not take the idea lightly of using park space for the library. In fact, a decision like this should only be made after evaluating the opportunity and the opportunity cost. Upon doing so, you quickly realize that the library represents a unique, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. an opportunity that will directly benefit community residents with jobs, businesses, investment, and inspiration on a global stage. If one truly cares about the people and what's in the best interest of the community, one has to evaluate this moment. I love trees, I love the parks, but I love our people more. Our people need opportunity. We can plant some more trees. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is Kamal Murray. I'm the Executive Director of the Access Tennis and Education Foundation, and I do work in and around Washington Park every day of the year. And during times and days like today, the park lays idle. 5 years from now, we hope that those kids are able to walk into a beautiful building on parkland and experience creative arts, sports, academics, read a book, or use the internet. I'm a little disappointed in all of us because we are sitting here making this a conversation about a structure when this is really a conversation about a legacy. And if he was here, he would be really disappointed because as a kid who rode the 28 bus down Stony Island to 47th Street every single day, I needed a symbol of hope. I needed something to keep me going towards high school graduation when I was starting to go the other way. If I would have the opportunity to ride the bus past the Barack Obama Library, it would be a symbol of what's possible. So one of the things that our black men need on the South Side is a constant reminder. Not a reminder that's green in the summer, but a constant reminder every day of the year of what's possible if you stay on the right track.
Thank you. Our next speaker, please.
My name is Jade. I'm 12 years old, and Chicago is my home. So I didn't prepare anything. I want to speak from my heart. I think that the library needs to be in the south side of Chicago because people everywhere need more opportunities, but especially a lot of the kids in Chicago. And the library would not waste park space. If anything, it would make the parks better. It's not wasting the space, it's not taking away from the space. It's simply using it for a different cause, and it's really something that we all need. I really think that the library would impact our communities in great ways. And I don't know if you can see my hat, but I'm trying to bring it on home.
Good job. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is Bill Doc Walls, and I'm actually the next mayor of the city of Chicago. It's a pleasure to be here. I grew up not far from here, right over in the South Shore area at 81st and Euclid. I learned to swim in Washington Park. I learned to play basketball in Jackson Park. So parks are important to me, but more important to our communities. Communities are built around parks, schools, and libraries. They aren't competing interests, they're equal interests. So whether it's a park in that space or a library in that space really doesn't matter as long as it's accessible to the community. So the things that concern me are the community benefits agreement, for example. Who will benefit from the building of that library? Will it be the people who are inconvenienced during that construction period, the people whose stores had to shut down because patrons weren't able to get there? There were detour signs, people were slowed up, their travel to and from work and school was extended. Will the children actually be able to afford to go into that library? They say there'll be 800,000 people visiting that library. 400,000 they expect to come from outside of the city of Chicago. So that means 400,000 are people right here in the city of Chicago who year after year will be expected to utilize that library to make it economically sustainable. But will the community benefit from that? So we need to talk about a community benefits agreement, and we also need to talk about what comes next. If not an Obama library there, what do we do as a community? We get a lot of people to come out for something like this, and that's fantastic. Obama is a big draw, but we ought to be equally as focused on what our children need so that they can grow and develop and be safe in the streets of Chicago. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is Jenny Hotaling, and I'm Vice President of Government Affairs at the Chicago Botanic Garden.
Barack Obama's presidency will be remembered in part for his commitment to the environment and education, and for First Lady Michelle Obama's commitment to the White House vegetable garden, healthy eating, and exercise. A presidential library on Chicago's South Side, planned carefully to enhance our park system and include flower and vegetable gardens, can make an impressive statement with lasting impact. The Chicago Botanic Garden, one of the great public gardens of the world, would be pleased to contribute to this vision and offers counsel in the design and operation of gardening components to the library. The garden's educational spectrum includes programs for students from pre-kindergarten through PhD, including Windy City Harvest, offering training in urban agriculture for youth, adults, and ex-offenders. The importance of nature is indisputable. In an increasingly technological world, a garden is the perfect anecdote. And Cicero's observation, if you have a garden and a library, you have everything you need, suggests that this combination is timeless. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you hold for 1 moment? Can you call the next 6 speakers?
Bobby
Thank
Townsend.
you for your patience.
Tavia Siegel. Danielle Wilson. Chewy Garcia. John Fincy. Diamond Green.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Hello, my name is Don Hall. I'm a sophomore in college, and I've lived on the south side of Chicago all of my life. The Presidential Center would be a great thing to bring to the south side. I am a part of this program called Metro Squash, where we utilize squash, education, academics, mentoring, cultural enrichment, and community service to empower CPS students to fully reach their full potential. The Presidential Library would be a great thing to bring to the South Side so that we will be able to utilize it, as well as other CPS students and other people in the community. I believe that this would be a great opportunity for Washington Park, and that's all.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Maya Hodari, and this is Hodari. We are residents of the Woodlawn community. I represent the Woodlawn Neighbors Association, a contingent of neighbors who've been working hard in Woodlawn to improve the quality of life for everyone. And most importantly, I'm a parent. And I think about the opportunity that we have to bring something very tremendous that our children will benefit from. How we can extend our blocks and our yards and give them the opportunity to ride their bike to a presidential library. Our neighbors in Woodlawn fully support the Park District conveying land to create an opportunity for our children. I hope you understand that we don't want this, we need this. We need to continue to work to bring amenities like this and benefit all of our families on the South Side. So I hope you make the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bobby Townsend. I'm for the library for the South Side, but knowing President Obama, I know him as Obama. He taught me Eugenia Byrne Hope Center. It's an organizing black group on the South Side with Dr. Sakoni Karanja. Obama would be against taking green space initiative from the area. If you ask, I'm with Cecilia Butler. There's plenty of land, there's plenty of other things that can build this library, which we're going to get, but it's not going to be in Park District. It'll be run by Park District. And like I said, Robin, if you're in the house, your name has been called.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Commissioner, welcome.
Good afternoon. Commissioner Jesus Garcia from the 7th District.
Please allow him to speak. Please allow him to speak. If you respect him, allow him to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair and honorable members of this panel. Washington Park is a jewel in the city's park system where families have gathered for more than 100 years to socialize, break bread, and celebrate. Kids play softball, baseball, basketball, and soccer in the park, and whole neighborhoods gather for events that range from community dance performances to public music concerts. The park is a terminus of Chicago's annual Bud Billiken Parade, and each year, thousands come from across the region to the annual African Festival of the Arts. As one of our public park system's most cherished resources, Washington Park is a vital access point for recreation, play, and the solace that comes from the natural rather than the built-up environment. And along with all of our public parks, Washington Park belongs to the people as a free, open, and critical antidote to the concrete and brick that dominates so much of our cityscape for so many of our residents. The people of Chicago are rightly opposed to encroachment on their public parklands, yet the mayor wants to allow a private institution to confiscate land.
1 minute remaining.
They do not own people's mind. In essence, I want to say this evening that there are plenty of spaces all over the South Side to locate the Presidential Obama Library. Our leaders should be stewards of our park's continued survival. Instead, the mayor has broken the fundamental public trust by supporting this unnecessary land grab. That's the mark of a mayor who neither understands nor cares about our people or their public assets. I reject that position. The parks belong to all of us, and I stand with the growing public campaign to keep it that way. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Could you please hold? Are there others who are in line to speak?
Me.
I know, but I want to try to, if you would hold, would you please call the other speakers?
Shai Rhymefest Smith, Alan Robinson, Lawrence Nebon, Jerry Alderman, Linda, the spelling of the last name is Jerming, Angela Ford, Veronica Morris, Victoria Crowder, Alex Goldberg.
Thank you. You may start now, sir.
My name is John Vinci. I'm a Chicago architect, and I want to say that I was an early supporter of Obama, as everybody in this room, I'm sure, was. And we were so happy when he won because we thought our rights would be extended and we wouldn't have to worry anymore. And now, representing Obama, we have a bunch of people who are trying to steal from us our parkland. I mean, this is not what rights are about. The parks are for everybody, and we should not be treated like people where you could steal the parks. They try to steal it for U of I, and we almost lost the park on the, what is it called, like Garfield Park. We stuck schools in the park which are now archaic and we can't expand them. DuSable Museum is not a very beautiful museum, but it has a purpose, but it should never have been in the park. It should have been then in the land. And I want to say something else.
1 minute remaining.
I want to say one other thing. The presentation tonight was a sham. First of all, when they say they're not going to take or condemn land for buildings, which will probably have to be done if they want to put the museum on existing non-park land. What are they going to do when they say they're going to build hotels and stores and everything? They're going to condemn your buildings. So, I mean, think about it. Who's going to benefit by that?
30 seconds remaining.
I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is London Dixon. I'm a product of Hyde Park High School. And Barack Obama came to this area. Barack Obama came to this area in '77. I met with him. at my old job, T.W. Hillman. I'm familiar about Jackson Park a great deal. I'm a member of the Apostolic Church of God. And the nominee came in January of last year, on the 31st day of January, at 1:00 p.m. on one of our broadcast stations of 106.3. I took the nomination to the Apostolic Church of God because that's where it came from. It reads like, this is Barack Obama, the President of the United States of America. And he said, my nomination goes back to the Apostolic Church of God back in Chicago. I took the nomination to my pastor, Byron T. Brazier, told him that I want to be considered for nomination for president because I'm familiar with Barack Obama. And the original location of
1 minute remaining.
Original location of the Presidential Library should be 63rd and Lakeshore Drive. I live in Woodlawn, 63rd Street, in the neighborhood of Powellton Zone area. So I would like to say thank you for your time and consideration. My name is London Dixon, nominee for president, partisan. Have a blessed day.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
My name is Alex Goldenberg. I'm an alumni of the University of Chicago. I stuck around after I graduated to work in the community with an organization called STOP. We're the group that fought against the closure of the mental health clinic. We fight for affordable housing, for a trauma center, and for investment in young people instead of just locking them up. Now, let's be clear about what this is that we're talking about today. It's a land grab and it's privatization. And why does the university want it? Because they want power and prestige and to benefit off of this community the way they have for decades. The whole Southside community has been exploited and resources have been extracted by this institution, the University of Chicago. And now people are rolling over backwards for them to come and take more. Well, we've had enough. We will not take it. We are sick and tired of being sick and tired. The University of Chicago denies that Black life matters. They don't have a level 1 trauma center, yet they have the money to provide one. We all know
1 minute remaining.
that if young white students were dying at the rate that young Black people are dying, they would have a trauma center yesterday. We know that this is true, and yet they don't. And we have to ask ourselves why that is. So why are we so quick to allow them to honor the legacy of the first Black president? Do we think that they value Black life? They talk about how this is going to bring jobs. We've all been citing the one study that they've commissioned, Yet there's other studies that show that after a few years,
30 seconds remaining.
the visitation to the libraries peters out. That money dries up. And where will we be at? The university will still be putting out brochures, attracting people, raising money off of the name of the first Black president, and the South Side will be in a worse off position than it is now. And we still won't have a level 1 trauma center.
Your time is up.
So it's time for us to say no. We will not allow the university to get the power and prestige of the presidential library until they open up a trauma center, until they invest in the community and do what's right. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. I'm Jerry Edelman, president of Open Lands, a 51-year-old regional land conservation organization. We believe that Chicago can give the Obama Library a spectacular setting, and in turn, the library can provide a catalyst for revitalizing long-abused national treasures. Open Lands recommends creating a 21st century plan for the Olmsted Parks in Chicago that sets out a bold vision for restoration and future needs for our diverse population. Washington and Jackson Parks can once again be vibrant community amenities for their neighbors, as well as for people from all over the city and the world who will visit the Presidential Library. To celebrate its centennial, the Forest Preserves of Cook County adopted their Next Century Conservation Plan. This plan sets out an inspired set of goals to restore nature, engage people, and reap the economic benefits of public open space. Open Lands believes the Obama Library can trigger a next century plan for our Olmsted parks and guarantee long-term stewardship through meaningful community involvement.
1 minute remaining.
We support the 5 principles clearly articulated by Vicki and George Ranney in last Sunday's Tribune. 1, minimize building in the parks. 2, replace any land used for buildings with new or reclaimed park acreage. 3, provide convenient public access and transportation. 4, exploit synergies with existing community and cultural institutions. And 5, restore and revitalize the parks. Finally, Open Land strongly opposes the transfer of parkland to the city. We believe the Park District should maintain control of the land to ensure the maintenance and integrity of a comprehensive park system. The potential transfer of parkland to the city sets up a dangerous precedent of opportunistic planning and violation of the public trust. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Before you start, would you call the next 5 speakers so that they can line up? Thank you for your patience.
Kevin Bailey, Mr. Darrell Freeman, Amelia Aldred. First name is Erana, last name is Taylor. June, oh, she already spoke. All right. Let me go to. Yes. June Ward.
Okay. All right. You may start. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you. I'm Alan Robinson. I live at on the corner of 56th and Hyde Park Boulevard in the 1700 building, and my view looks right out onto beautiful Jackson Park. There's a lot of points that previous speakers have made about the purpose of parks to bring people together, and I fully support bringing the President Obama Presidential Library to our parks to make them stronger. However, we also need to leverage this opportunity to improve our parks. I and almost all the neighborhoods surrounding Jackson Park are cut off from the Japanese gardens, from the lagoons, by Cornell Drive. The potential site for the library in Jackson Park would be in one of the most critical sections of the park, where kids don't have to cross Cornell Drive to get to the fields, to get to play areas. So I would strongly recommend that we think about these parks on a large side, and for Cornell Drive, move that traffic over to Lakeshore Drive. Mm-hmm. In Washington, if it's to be sited in Washington Park, let's also remember, architects, we were comparing to other presidential library sites needing 20 acres.
30 seconds remaining.
In non-urban environments. This library will be fundamentally different. It will be engaged to the community. Let's integrate it in the community, either on parkland or outside of parkland, whichever is the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ward?
Yes, my name is June Ward, and I'm a supporter of the Barack Obama President's Center for the South Side of Chicago. As I've been hearing all evening, President Barack have a lot at estate in the city of Chicago on the South Side. My concern is that if the library comes to the South Side, how many of us blacks will get the contract? If the library comes to the South Side, what would the housing be? Will the housing be going to start going up where blacks cannot afford to live over here anymore? So We haven't discussed that. If we want the library to be here, let's keep it in our neighborhood and let's keep it affordable for us. Because it seems like every time I look around, we start fighting for our neighborhood, building our neighborhood up, we get moved out.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Can somebody help lower the microphone, please?
This is not my forte. Thank you so much. Good evening. My name is Linda Jennings. I'm an RN at the University of Chicago, and I am also in collective bargaining with National Nurses United. I am for a library, the Obama Library. However, I do not want it. It can be on the south side, the west side. I do want it in the city. I do not want the University of Chicago hospitals and clinics taking it over with their takeover spirit and the lab grab that will occur if they get it. They own land west of Chicago, west of King Drive. We would not be having this conversation if the university had their own land. Instead, we have a clandestine meeting with the mayor to have these meetings to inform the south side of Chicago of the true intent.
1 minute remaining.
So I urge the library to be here, but I do not want the University of Chicago hospital and clinics and the university itself governing it, because they will. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next
God
speaker,
bless
please.
you. God bless you, baby doll. Thank you.
May I please call the next 5 speakers? Valerie Lenora, Patrice Dexter, Collie Horn, Chris Demas, Susan Rosenberg, Butler Adams.
Thank you. You may start, please.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Irena Jackson Taylor. I am an alumni of Dyer High School, and I was born and raised in the Bronzeville community. The Coalition to Revitalize Dyer is not opposed to the Obama Library in Washington Park. However, any proposal from the University of Chicago must include the Dyer Global Leadership and Green Technology High School, a plan that is supported by the community and numerous academic institutions. Dyer is a jewel in Washington Park. The Bronzeville community knows that, the Washington Park community knows that, and we all know the University of Chicago knows that. Any other plan to either make Dyer part of the Obama Library is not acceptable. We
1 minute
want
remaining.
the Dyer Global Leadership and Green Technology High School to be included in the campus of the Obama Presidential Library. I want to make it absolutely clear. Do not touch Dyer High School. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Evangel Mamadi Love Yanubian, founding president of Global Committee commemorating King Days. We are presently involved in resurrecting House Bill 0017 that would put the 3 visually affirmed days of respect, January 15th, principles of human and civil rights, white colors, April 4th, principles of nonviolence, black colors, August 28th, spiritual and moral principles of righteousness, justice, peace, and peoplehood on the school calendar. When you change the brain, you change the behavior. The wearing of the green is on the school calendar, and it's about Irish unity and reinforcing their history, and we need to do the same thing for the American civil rights renaissance of the 1960s. I have a donation that I would like to contribute to the Obama Library. It is called the Barack Mobile. It was highly covered on television by Channel 7, 5, 2, and others. And
1 minute remaining.
I'd like to, my concern is the community, and there are 20 points being left out of the discussion. And since Jackson Park, as well as Washington Park, which houses the DuSable Museum, which would serve as a nice complement to the library.
30 seconds remaining.
I'm concerned that we might have to have United States congressional and Senate hearings because these are national landmark sites, and I don't want to see it given away to anybody. The parks belong to the people.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Bailey. I'm a citizen in the 20th Ward and also a candidate for alderman. Local leadership has allowed, aided, and facilitated in the displacement of many of the residents in this community and the surrounding communities. There's plenty of vacant land to go around in the 20th Ward and the surrounding wards. There's so many different issues that we could start to fix if we start to rebuild on those vacant properties if we are to get this presidential land. But we also need to also bring up that if the university will be a part of this, they need to also address some of the other issues and make sure that we have mutual benefits that are going to benefit the communities around them and not just take and do as they see fit. There needs to be absolute dialogue between local leadership, communities, and people who are going to be involved in driving up these plans. So if we're going to get this library, let's make sure we get this dialogue going and build on some places that's already available where they've already displaced hundreds of residences. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
My name is Chris Demas, and I've lived all 82 years of my life in Chicago, grew up on the South Side, still live in the South Side, attended Harper. And I haven't been in this building since 1949 when I played against Hyde Park in a basketball game. Now, the reason I'm here is just as a private citizen. Although I am retired from the City Colleges of Chicago, I served as a dean at Malcolm X College for a number of years. And I am all for Obama. I think he's a wonderful president. He's done a great job. I am all for libraries, and I am all for parks. But we need to preserve our green space in Chicago. If we start with tearing up our park system, what happens if Rauner, God help us, should ever be elected president? Are we going to put a library for Rauner in one of our parks?
1 minute remaining.
We are setting a precedent, ladies and gentlemen, a precedent which we don't need to do. Yes, we did have the museums, and we did have Soldiers Field, and that one, that place, what is it, McCormick Place. But that was before people knew better. We know better now.
30 seconds remaining.
We do not need to tear up our parks. We need our parks in Chicago, and God help us. Please, please put pressure on our politicians. I wish we had statesmen. We need statesmen here in Chicago. People who will do the right thing for the people of Chicago, for the people of Illinois, for the people of the United States of America. We don't need land grabbers tearing up our parks and then condemning buildings outside the parks so they can build their nice high-rises.
You have a seated 2 minutes.
No, we don't need that. So, folks, go parks, go Chicago. We need strong parks. We need the library. We don't need the library in the park.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
My name is Susan Rosenberg. I've lived in Hyde Park since 1979 when I started at the University of Chicago. In 1979 at the University of Chicago, they warned us not to go north of, I don't remember, 55th or 53rd because, I don't know, we might get mugged or something. I'm glad to see that they've extended their ideas of what's an acceptable place for them to be. When I first heard that they were buying land west of Washington Park, I assumed that they were talking about land that was going to be used for an Obama presidential library and related development, and I was absolutely shocked to learn that they intended to use that land for, I don't know, other things and try to make most of the library in the park. All of the benefits, if there are benefits, and I do believe there will be many benefits from having an Obama presidential library in Chicago and in one of the neighborhoods that needs redevelopment, would accrue to those neighborhoods even if the library is built outside of the park. And it should be built outside of the park and not take parkland away.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
My name is Butler Adams. I've been a resident of the Woodlawn neighborhood for all my life, and my family has been in the neighborhood for almost 100 years. I give architecture tours downtown, and I'm certainly interested in the process. Having been to both inaugurations, I think this is historic to certainly bring this to the city of Chicago, the Barack Obama Presidential Library, and I'm 100% behind that plan to bring it here to the city of Chicago, especially the South Side in my neighborhood. But I'm not necessarily privy, again, as previous speakers have said, to put it directly in the park and utilize that green space. Yeah, you say we have 1,200 acres, and what is 20 out of that? Well, if any of you all own 20 acres, you know that it's a lot of land. And the University of Chicago, again, has that quadrant of land on the northwest corner of 55th and King Drive. As the person from Friends of the Park earlier said, do it an urban way. Instead of spreading out and sprawling as if it were some suburban mall, go up. You would activate the Green Line station. You could work with the CTA to build
1 minute remaining.
Some type of parking deck there on the west side of the tracks to conserve those who are going to the train station and those who are going to be going to the library. If you're going to have 800,000 people coming through the community, you want to have the best amount of public transportation. Just plopping this in the park, and I don't want to be hypocritical because I'm in favor of the Lucas Museum, but that's on a parking lot, which is not going to affect green space. I was in favor of the Olympics, which was going to be temporary structures. This is going to be permanent, and I don't think we should just rush. There is, again, a lot of space in the area, and seeing as the University of Chicago owns this quadrant of land, maybe they can be great stewards of the community, donate that land to the Park District could donate that land to the city, and problem solved.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
If I can please call the next 5 speakers. Pearlie Baptiste, Alex Peltz, Emma Labonte, Barry Rappaport, Sarah Martini.
All right, next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Valerie Leonard, and we're from the west side of Chicago, North Lawndale. I want to say, first of all, thank you so much for having this hearing, and I thank the folks at University of Chicago for sharing with us, I guess, a very broad brush of their vision. What I have yet to hear is why we need park land. I'm hearing from folks in the community that there's a number of parcels of land that they already have acquired and have not used, and the question remains, and I have yet to hear, is why we need park land. The reason we're here is, you probably know that there are 2 bids in the city of Chicago, and the mayor has actually committed to supporting both bids. And I'm all for Chicago, and I love everything that I heard here. I think this is democracy at its best. We heard pros, we heard cons, even though we haven't heard why they need parkland, we still had some robust discussion. I would love it if we could have the same robust discussion on the west side concerning that
1
bid.
minute remaining.
North Lawndale, we have not seen development in a coordinated fashion in 60 years. We're one of the poorest communities. It doesn't matter that we're all TIFed. Every piece of land in North Lawndale is in a TIF, and we have yet to see any coordinated development that's going to benefit us.
30 seconds remaining.
So we're asking that you ask Mayor Emanuel to provide the same kind of hearing. I know that that's not parkland, but it is publicly owned city land that's involved, that we're having here. We need to have that discussion and then have the President and First Lady make up their own minds and hear all of the discussion and not just from the South Side. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Young lady.
Good evening. My name is Princella Jaribu Lee, and I am a lifelong Chicagoan and a Washington Park homeowner. I am here on behalf of the Coalition to Revitalize Dyett High School. The coalition is comprised of such incredible stakeholders as the DuSable Museum of Black History, Chicago Botanic Gardens, Chicago Teachers Union, UIC, Department of Education, just to name a few. We are not opposed to the Obama Library in the city of Chicago or on the south side of Chicago. However, we are against the last open enrollment neighborhood high school, Dyett High School, being collateral damage for the library. The promise of education has been broken in our community and in our city. And as a result, we developed a visionary plan for the school and for the community surrounding it. We want the Dyett Global Leadership and Green Technology High School plan implemented as a part of the proposal for the library. The library will be amazing on the south side of Chicago, especially since we have over 160 neighborhood schools that do not have a library. But we want to make sure that we have the Dyett Global Leadership and Green Technology plan implemented at Dyett High School in Washington Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, prior to your coming up, would you please announce the next speakers?
Robin Clark, William Robinson, Melvin Butler, London Dixon.
Mr. Dixon went.
He left already? Okay. Naomi Davis, Coach Ratcliffe, last name is spelled S-K-O-S-E-Y, and our final speaker of the night, Don Hall.
Mr. Scosi spoke already.
Sir.
Please come down. If your name has not been called, but you have turned in a card, please come down and get in the line. We are coming to the end of the cards that we have, but if you wish to testify, we will hear your testimony. Sir, please, you may begin.
Good afternoon, evening. My name is Barry Rappaport. I grew up in Jeffrey Manor and South Shore. I played in Bensley Park as well as Jackson Park, and I am a retired Chicago public school teacher. During my last year of teaching on the South Side, my South Side students ran a student, teacher, and community collaborative project. And I believe we left a boulder, I don't believe it, I know we left a boulder in Jackson Park celebrating Frederick Douglass for his activities there. And I believe that this project brought together, I know that the project brought together the Park District, Mayor Richard M. Daley, and students, teachers, and community members, you know, ended up getting a boulder, a bronze boulder with, a granite boulder with a bronze plaque dedicated to Frederick Douglass for who dedicated the Haitian Pavilion. The boulder is located by the Bowling Green and the 59th Street Harbor. Please look for it if you haven't seen it yet. My feeling is that what these students did with teachers and community members is they
30 seconds remaining.
They got the Park District, they got the president of the Board of Education, and they got the community to support a boulder placed in a park.
And what this means, I think, this is, I believe, a precedent that the land can be used. All you have to do is really follow the lead of these South Side students.
You have exceeded 2 minutes.
I believe the land should be available, and I certainly would hope that education, I know it's a priority for President Barack Obama and Michelle Obama.
Sir, would you conclude,
this
please?
museum here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Flyers are available.
Next speaker, please.
My name is Robin Kaufman. I graduated.
Oh, excuse me. We're rotating.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's okay, Robin. Good evening.
Put your microphone down a little bit, please. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good evening. My name is Wendy Walker-Williams. I'm the Executive Director of the Southeast Chicago Commission. On behalf of our Board of Directors, I would like to read the following statement in support for the University of Chicago's bid to bring the Obama Presidential Library to the south side of Chicago. The SECC, established in 1952, is comprised of leaders representing the Hyde Park, Kenwood, Oakland, Washington Park, and Woodlawn communities. These 5 communities make up the neighborhood service area of the SECC. We believe that our established record of community service and work in these areas align with the overall goals of the university in its bid for the Obama Presidential Library. The library would bring great resources and serve as a catalyst for extensive economic workforce development, educational improvement, increased cultural opportunities, and tourism for the communities within our neighborhood that would benefit greatly from such great investment. First Lady Michelle Obama's commitment to the work of the commission was demonstrated in her service as our board treasurer for several years. Thus, the commission is pleased to have the opportunity to serve the first family in the neighborhood in which they live, worked, and played.
1 minute remaining.
We wholeheartedly pledge our support to bring the Obama Presidential Library home to the south side of Chicago. Thank you.
Thank you. You may start. Thank you for your patience.
Okay, my name is Robin Kaufman. I graduated from the university 50 years ago. I live 6 blocks from Washington Park. I spend a lot of time there. I am distressed at how the university has misrepresented things, and we just had an example of it. What Ms. Williams said was, we want it on the south side. Most people agree we want it on the south side. That doesn't mean we have to use precious, historic parkland to do it, either Jackson or Washington Park. Okay, they have engineered, along with the Obama Library Foundation, a quote emergency by hiding their plans to put it in the park and suddenly bringing it to us. If we want it on the south side, we have to go with their plan. The people want their plan. The people don't want that plan. I think you've seen that. Okay. So there is another site. It's got 47 acres. The city already owns it. They've already put almost $1 million into a study of how they would do the transportation and everything else. That's the Michael Reese site. And
1 minute
the
remaining.
library could come to the south side and it could go there. Why hasn't that happened? You can guess. However, what we know is that the mayor desperately wants to put a casino there. Now, do we want a casino there or do we want the library there? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please. Mr. Ratliff.
Good evening.
You can turn it up.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ernest Coach Radcliffe. I'm representing the coaches of the city of Chicago. I spent many, many years out here at Jackson Park servicing the youth with all these fields and things of that nature. We've developed and sent thousands and thousands of kids to high school and college. I have one question, and I just want to know, and I know you might not be able to answer it, but I want to be a part of this answer, and the coaches want to be represented. If the library comes here and those ballparks are moved, where will our children be able to go and participate in youth empowerment sports? This is a safe haven. I work tremendously hard with the 71st Street District up here and the University of Chicago to make sure that it's safe for our families and kids to come over here and play. It's a home for all of our kids here. So if it is, the Presidential Library is a great monument, but if it comes here, please do not forget those kids that use that facility to play their games,
1 minute
to be
remaining.
safe, and to call it home. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a valid point. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is William Robinson. I grew up in Bronzeville on 43rd. My roots go back to the beginning, when it first started, black people first started coming up here. I thank God for Friends of the Park, because we need somebody to stand up for these parks. The parks, it was a language in the park. I was talking with a friend of mine, and he said, but how can they do that? Because isn't it language in the parks that the parks are to remain forever free? Forever free. We already got a toy factory, a museum, a Lucas Museum. That's for Star Wars. Then we could tear down Humboldt Park for Star Trek. We could put something else. I mean, the parks are for forever free. They're not for toy museums. They're not for casinos. They're not for you to knock down people who lived here for 50 years, from their mother to their grandfather to their son's building, for you to send a note through certified mail saying, eminent domain, we need your lifelong home for a parking lot extension. There's plenty of land. You want it? You want it on the south side? Here's 55th and King Drive. Cross the street. You're still on 55th and King Drive. That's all you got to do is cross the street. But what you want is the land, but you can't have it. I mean, you're trying to sell your soul for some money. You're selling the parkland. He said, one guy earlier said, you can always plant another tree. Where? Where? And any of these politicians, we voted you in.
30 seconds remaining.
We vote you out. You're going to lose those cushy jobs that you show up a couple of hours a month to work and get $100 grand. We're going to vote you out. We all registered voters. We voting your ass out. You got to go. We don't need it. We don't want to sell our souls for the park. The park is to remain forever free. We don't need a Lucas Museum. We don't need anything. We need what God gave us. Green grass, plenty of open space. I don't want to be stacked on top of everybody doing a picnic or whatever. Okay? It's plenty of vacant land throughout the city of Chicago. You tore down the whole projects for a land grab. But the real estate market fell out, so you lost the State Street corridor to downtown.
Your time is up, sir.
All right, my time is up. I made my point. We ain't selling our soul for no casino.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Baker. I'm very involved with the Chicago Teachers Union, with COCO, with NCOBRA, and I'm a retired teacher. I want to say that I'm a lifetime member of this community, and the parks are very important. The question is, I'd like for the panelists to notice, how many people here want to have the Obama Library in Chicago? Raise your hand. Take a note, take a note. So the main question that I'm hearing is, what land are you going to put it on? So we have to be careful that we don't ignore land that's being used for recreation, because our children need recreation. I asked my mother before I left home, she's 94 years old, what should I say, Mama? She said, tell them we want the Obama Library in Chicago on the south side. The library would allow us more economical growth. As an educator, I realize libraries are essential. We want to improve the economical well-being of citizens in the community. We have some hard questions panel that's been raised tonight. I hope you are listening, because we need to have the community's input. 1 minute remaining. The input should tell if you want that land to be changed and a building laid on it. The input should be if you want that land, that library to be in another spot. So I say to you, let's have the library right here in Chicago, but let's make sure we resolve all these questions. So this will be a community, a unity effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm Naomi Davis, the founder and CEO of Blacks in Green. proud granddaughter of Mississippi sharecroppers, raised to be a steward of the land. And I live right across from the park. I'm in there every day with my dog, Lena Horn, with poop bags, okay? And open, unfettered space is precious to us. The soil, the grass, the trees, they have therapy. Any of you who have ever stretched yourself out on the ground, any of you who are outdoors people know that you can go there and get well. It's a fact. Here's another fact. The parkland is not necessary for the Obama Presidential Library on the south or the west side of Chicago. Matter of fact, I'm still befuddled as to why the universities, if they're on the short list, they didn't get together, the University of Illinois and the University of Chicago, and build on the build on the Michael Reese site. But we are we're chipping and slipping away at a slippery slope. The next 2 or 3 great ideas that are needed in the parkland will continue to erode our ability to get well with the land. So we're working at the intersection of environment and economy, and
30 seconds remaining.
Development is an economic cornerstone for us, but we strongly oppose the opportunity that's going to exist for displacement through gentrification. We have an extreme wealth disparity in America. Blacks cannot compete with white dollars for control of the land. We believe ownership of the land, ownership of the businesses, and the capital necessary to sustain them are absolutely essential. Community benefits are not declared, they are negotiated, and we
You have exceeded 2 minutes.
Please conclude.
I will. We should be looking at models across the country. Harlem was once 90% black, now it's 30% black. And we should be looking at the Columbia, Johns Hopkins, and MIT models for how you can put money on the table first, put protections there first, and then talk with the community.
Thank you very much. Can I ask that some of you come to the other microphone? You can stay there, but since you're, please. You may start.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Robin Boyd Clark, and I'm a candidate for 5th Ward Alderman, but I am also a longtime resident of South Shore, a longtime community activist and community builder. And I'm also a person who owns a piece of history in reference to the president because he had his first campaign and legislative office in a building that I own. The community can speak for themselves. We are intelligent people. I'm trying to understand why is it that the university doesn't support things that the community wants. They try to tell the community what they should have. And so any efforts that we have made to do a landmark there was denied by the local politician. It was cutting the community off from matching funds of state funds and federal dollars. And so I'm supportive of the Obama Library. I'm not so sure that it needs to be in Park District property, okay? I'm trying to understand why we can't get something south of 63rd Street. We have this huge place. We have this huge place called Lakeside Development. Why can't they look at that site? I mean, that's an opportunity, that's an option, because we hear about options, right? And I'm just saying that the community organizing first African-American president would likely not support using parkland. And he would support community initiatives. And he would encourage the University of Chicago to execute a community benefits agreement and support people in the community and not act like people, I'm just gonna say black people and people in surrounding communities don't know how to conduct themselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is Holly Schisler.
Can you raise your microphone a little bit,
I
please?
can.
can try. Is
Thank
that better?
you. That's better, thank you.
Yes, so my name is Holly Schisler. I'll try to be brief. I've lived in Chicago and on the South Side for the last 15 years, and most recently the last 6 years in South Shore, where I'm also raising my young child. I agree with everybody who has spoken in saying that for historical, symbolic, and economic reasons, it's vitally important, crucially important that the Obama Library come to Chicago and I hope to the South Side. But I think that putting it to us as a choice between public parkland and the library, either the library or the parkland, is a false choice and a choice that is difficult to understand why it's being put to us in such a way. Many speakers have already said there's a tremendous amount of vacant land on the South Side available to be developed if the people responsible for this kind of development would put their minds to it. Finally, I'd like to say I'm a person who has walked nearly every day of the 15 years I've lived here, either in Washington Park or in Jackson Park, depending on the different locations where I've lived. I value that space. It's not only public land, it's green space. When we talk about a legacy, one of the legacies that we need to leave to future generations is open land to recreate, open land for our children to play on.
30 seconds remaining.
And also, by the way, green space, grass and trees to produce oxygen so that we can continue to breathe, and shade so that the city will not be so hot in the summer. Once this land is gone, it won't be replaced.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, Madam Chair. My name is Mark Lovelace, and I'm a candidate for Chicago City Clerk. And more than that, as I know most of you, members of the committee from various forms of life, I'm a recipient of recognition of calls of public service from President Obama. And as someone who served on various community boards, I don't envy your decision that you have to make, not one bit. You as the Park District, your primary objective is to maintain the public parks. And I know that you have taken this, and the fact that you're scheduling these two meetings shows that you really have a real sensitivity as far as to fulfilling that mission. Now, I believe in having having the library here, and I believe in maintaining the public parks as they are. I think there have to be some extraordinary circumstances for the parks to be traded
1 minute
off
remaining
as anything other than open space. And I've been to the planning committee meetings of many of the groups that were planning proposals, and I made this point there, and I'll make it here. If it's towards an objective of trying to have a social impact, in other words, not just the traditional business model,
30 seconds remaining,
but a social entrepreneurial impact, so that it's not just about profits and dollars and things, but having real community effectiveness, and not just providing a job for even if it's 1,200 people, but having an impact that will, not just through the jobs, but through a concentrated effort, improve the sustainability and the development of the entire community. And I hope that in your deliberations that you would take that into consideration, that to not just stick with the traditional mindset of business and production, but have an objective of having a broader
please make your final
impact.
remarks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Hello, and thank you. My name is Sharon Payne. I'm a community activist with STOP and MTO. I'm here to say that I love the idea of this library. I'm thrilled, but I'm not thrilled when it comes to taking back my trees. Okay, I've used this land out here for myself as a child, for my children, for my grandchildren, and I hope to see it still be here and be public. Okay, now we've got plenty of land that's been raised and nobody is using it. How come we can't use this for the library? Okay, University of Chicago often refers to itself as the 800-pound gorilla. They're more like the 8,000-ton gorilla when it comes to this community because they run it. And we need to stop letting them run it. We need to run our own communities. We need to get up off our behinds and vote. Okay? I love the idea of the library, but guess what? We need a trauma center. And you can do all of this for the library. You can do some more for a trauma center for the rest of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First, I want to say thank you for allowing us to have this time to voice our opinions on what it is that we want for the South Side of Chicago. It's not often that we're given a platform to actually speak and give our concerns so that they can be considered seriously. However, I'm terribly embarrassed tonight because we'll never have another first black president from Chicago. And whereas this conversation should have been about how we should be coming together to unite to bring a library to the city of Chicago to honor our first black president who is from this city and whose wife went to school in the 7th Ward, and I'm not going to mention what ward I'm running for office for because it's not about that tonight. It's not about political agendas and who can do what to advance their political careers. And I'm extremely embarrassed that we've used this platform and this time to talk about what we can do when we cannot even celebrate what he's done. So I'm embarrassed for all of you all who came in here with your personal agendas and came in here to talk about anything other than the Obama Library this evening. But then I have to remember that 60% of the people who voted him in office were Caucasian and of other races. So let me remind you people that we may never, ever again have this opportunity, and that he is from Chicago, and this is the very reason right now why he wants to relocate it somewhere else. And there aren't very many businesses that want to invest in Chirac, in the city of Chicago, and that want to bring development and growth into this community. Now, I want to see the checkbooks of everyone else who brought money to the table that can actually cover this project and cover $600 million in growth and economic development.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Commissioner Lavelle, Commissioner King, Superintendent Kelly. My name is Graham Grady. I am a private citizen of Chicago. I was born at Providence Hospital. I was raised on the south side of Chicago, and I live on the south side of Chicago now. I've had the good fortune of knowing President Obama and working with First Lady Michelle Obama at City Hall. The benefits of the Obama Presidential Library are enormous, and they don't need to be repeated now. But that's not what we're here about. What we're here about is the proper location of this phenomenal institution. The architect grayed out on the PowerPoint slide the right spot. And that right spot is the 11-acre site outside of the parks. The right place for this museum is not in the parks. I suggest that the University of Chicago take that 11-acre site, donate it to the parks, name it for Michelle Obama, the First Lady, because she is Barack's rock, and build the library there. The discussion tonight is about the right place for the park. It should be on new parkland,
1 minute remaining,
expanded parkland, and not in existing parkland. Locating the library further into the community would be an enhancement for the community. It would make it more accessible, and it would leave the green space that we have for the public. The name of Barack Obama should join the pantheon of great names in our parks: Adler,
30
Shedd,
seconds remaining.
Field, DuSable, Notobart, DuSable, etc. But we don't need to take that parkland. We need to preserve that parkland for future generations forever. We need the library here. We don't want to lose it to New York or Hawaii, or as the Republicans are saying, to Kenya. But we need to have it in Chicago, outside of the park. Please consider your decision seriously. Bring the Obama Library to Chicago, but don't take our precious parkland. The parks are for the public. The library can be elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, thank you very much. My name is Celia Leventhal, and I have lived on the south. I lived on the south side for 25 years. I am a great fan of the parks. I grew up in Mississippi and made my own migration to Chicago 35 years ago. And the salvation for moving from wide open spaces to a very dense city was open space. It was parks and trees and grass that were available to people who lived in multifamily buildings, high rises, et cetera. That's one of the joys of Chicago that other urban areas don't have. The idea of shrinking our parks, and I know that many people don't feel this is shrinking the parks, but anytime you take the green space out, you'd never recover it. I would like to see the library expand our park system by becoming part of its own park.
1 minute remaining.
It could be near another park. It will bring things. I've been to other presidential libraries, and I've seen the things that are brought with that kind of thing and the things that are taken away. I would support either the west side or the south side. Additional beautiful things are needed in many places, both of those areas. But I strongly oppose putting it in one of our existing parks. I would also like to say...
30 seconds remaining.
Okay, thank you. I would also like to say that on my way in, I met up with this gentleman here who's in the wheelchair, who came to this meeting by train and by bus because he's a public-spirited person and is very invested in this. I ran into him at the corner, at the south corner, and he was sliding all over the place in his wheelchair trying to get to this meeting. And so he allowed me to help him get here by steering him and making sure he got over 3/4 of a block of unshoveled and unswept sidewalk. And in a way, I feel that that's a bit sadly symbolic of all these big plans. What happens in the grand plans for the city and for huge SWAT, well, I'm not sure who benefits from this. It costs a lot of money to go into a presidential library. But at any rate, I think to lose sight of the fact that we have people who are disabled that want to come to public, that have to struggle with ice and snow to come to this gigantic public meeting where there are 15 buses full of people coming. That's a detail that's very important, and I think it's symbolic of many things.
You're right.
So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Really, thank you very much.
That's an important consideration. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Greetings. My name is Bahed Tatia Potep, and I'm going to be very brief. And I just wanted to say that it seems like whenever some major plans are being developed for, say, since the Daley administration, when they were planning to bring the Olympics here, they had their sights on Washington Park. And that was going to displace a lot of people, and it created the same amount of controversy and upheaval that it's creating right now. But I'm just saying that everything is vibration, everything is energy, and just because we don't know what that land is, the University of Chicago definitely knows, because they have the equipment, they know the vibration, the energy of the land. I don't know. But there's something about that land that they've been trying to get for a very long time. And we have to dig our heels in and fight, because it has to do with us. It has to do with us. So I don't know, but we can't let this go. We can't let this go.
Thank you very much. We are 2 minutes before 9. You have our last 2 minutes.
Thank you so much. My name is Adorthus McDowell. I'm with the Kenwood Oakland Community Organization and the Coalition to Revitalize Dyett High School. Let's talk about Dyett High School. Dyett High School was disinvested by the city of Chicago, was disinvested by the current mayor, was disinvested by the Chicago Public Schools. We are not opposed to Dyett High School we're not opposed to the presidential library coming into Washington Park, okay? We're not opposed to using the park land. However, the University of Chicago will work with the coalition to develop the amenities as talked about by the Metropolitan Attendance Council that will go into place toward making that park usable for the entire community. Let's look at the history of Bronzeville. Okay, Walter H. Dye was a jazz musician. Elementary school that set the stage for many jazz teachers, many music teachers that created music programs throughout the south side of the city of Chicago, including Hyde Park, including King High School, which went to the inauguration. A lot of that genesis came from Walter H. Dye High School. If you look at the history of Bronzeville, Dye belongs in Bronzeville. Bronzeville belongs in the conversation seriously for the Barack Obama Presidential Library. However, we must have a dialogue with the community. We cannot take away the community's voice from a fair say and a fair shake for Bronzeville, for the Presidential
30 seconds
Library,
remaining.
Okay, for the history of our ancestors that have come to Chicago over these past 150 years. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. We have heard a wide range of views tonight. There is another public hearing tomorrow, beginning at 12 noon in the Washington Park Fieldhouse. I thank you all for coming. I remind you that this has been a public hearing. It is not a meeting of the Chicago Park District Board. There is no decision that will be made based on the testimony that we heard today. Thank you all for coming, and good night.